I am here with Mr. Scott Keck, the probably the nicest dude I've ever met. We've been talking for shut up. Stop laughing. This is your root.
Well, you haven't met very many people, then have you, Chase? I'm so sorry about that. You've led a sheltered life.
Stop! You're undermining me on my own show.
I am the Underminer! Oh, wait, that's The Incredibles. I wasn't in that. God damn it.
The dad jokes are too much. Stop it. All right. Anyway, we've just been laughing and chatting for like the last 40 minutes, and I was like, I should probably record
tequila.
This. Yeah, drinking. You are. I wish I had some of that right now. But yeah, so for those of you who don't know, this video should be going up like right after I upload my Shadow of Destiny review, where I just absolutely fillet that game and talk about everything I love about it, and just say how brilliant and interesting it is, and all this other fun stuff. And I reached out to Scott Keck, who voices Ike in the game, the main character, and just asked him, hey, is there any chance that I'd be able to talk to you for like 30 minutes or whatever? Turns out it's been way longer than that already. And just, ask you some stuff about the game and blah, blah, blah. And you were really nice immediately. I think your first words were, oh, thank you for the kind words, because I was really like, I love that game and your performance was great. And
may I just say, anyone who uses fillet and Shadow of Destiny in the same sentence is okay in my book.
Yes. Anyway, so my first question, these aren't really ordered in any particular way, but how much context did you have when you were reading lines for Ike? Did you have any idea how complex the game would be, or how many extra lines you'd have to record for all the different choices?
We had not a ton of context because Junko, the Japanese woman who had written the game, and God help me, I think was it Konami? You know better than I. I believe it was Konami. I still have the guy's business card somewhere from 18 years ago.
Yeah.
So she spoke a little bit of English, and I think there were 2 or 3 guys who were developers and maybe co-writers there with her,
right,
who spoke almost no English, and then they had an interpreter. We got our sides, as they say in the acting or voice acting biz, which is your dialogue. And, we'd get to look through them a little bit, but we were mostly worried about, you're highlighting your own lines, going through it. And so we knew it was sort of a time travel game, but, we didn't have at least I didn't, any concept of, oh, and now we're recording that part that happens 500 years in the past. And,
right.
We had to do that a little bit because they would have to say, okay, now you're meeting your great, 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 great grandmother or something, whatever it was. And we'd say, oh, okay, great. For me, it didn't matter quite as much because they really directed me as Ike to pretty much have the same affect all the time.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like, well, hi, I'm Ike. Okay, I'll be seeing you. That was, it was like days and days of that.
Mm-hmm. It's so funny because hearing you kind of, whenever you go through the whole, your impression of Ike, as you remember it now, you do like this really high-pitched dweeby voice. But back in the day,
that's how I remember Ike.
Yeah, no, but like, honestly, when I hear your voice now, if you literally went up by like maybe just a slightly higher pitch, that would be like perfect because you already sound so similar to Ike in a lot of ways.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, it's so close. But yeah, that sounds about right because like when I recorded for Ruby, and I'm that like show I told you about, I haven't seen anything about Ruby. I don't know anything about it whatsoever. So they're like, okay, well, there's this character and he's doing this and you're talking to him. And I was just like, okay. It was just like a complete blur the whole time. I had no idea what they were talking about. I didn't really retain any of it or anything like that. So that sounds about right. When you went into record or like when you were doing the auditions or anything like that, had you seen Ike's character design or any in-game footage or cutscenes to work with, or was it just completely just out of your ass, so to speak?
It's 18 years ago, and that's a lot of alcohol and brain cells under the bridge. Because I had to give up mushrooms after I got out of college. But
you and me both, man.
I want to say the only thing we had seen was artwork. We hadn't seen, and I'm talking about like printed out artwork. Because you got to remember, this is 2001. There were no Flash-based animatics or, there were no wireframe. There was no anything really happening
Sure.
animation wise. We were just seeing like pictures of the characters.
Okay.
And they had some, some scenic backdrop, street scene stuff printed out.
Sure,
and I
sure.
think we saw, I actually never played the game, but if I remember correctly, when I time traveled, there was like sort of a bubble or some other kind of effect.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I think we had a couple of printouts of that sort of, time travel thing.
Yeah.
But really that was it. And there were, we had pictures of all the characters.
Mhm.
Homunculus, which was like the weirdest name ever. But hey, wasn't my game, right?
Next question I have is, have you met or interacted with any other voice actors on the team? Or was it like a typical recording session where you're by yourself?
No, actually, the Konami guys and Junko really wanted us to be in the booth together whenever possible. So, like, I think was her name Rose and Charles. Whenever possible, if we had scenes together, we were literally in the booth, like 28 inches apart, doing these characters together. So that was actually really fun. And today the whole deal when they do these big animation projects and DreamWorks and Pixar and who, fuck you, I have $100 million. Everybody records things with nobody there and they're just listening to playback, but that wasn't how we were doing it for these games.
Right.
These were kind of, let's face it, lower budget.
Sure.
I was getting $500 for an 8 or 9 hour day. I don't know what everybody else was getting. I don't know if people were getting hourly or if they were just getting like a daily buyout. And of course, this was all buyout. So it was, once the recording is done and you've got your check, if this thing sells, 500 million units, you're not going to see a penny. Konami's going to be wealthy, but
right.
I mean, I don't even really know how it did. I guess it did well enough that they made a sequel, which they didn't cast me in.
I don't think it was a sequel as much as it was a spiritual successor. It was called Time Hollow, and it was on the DS, and Junko was involved on that, but it only had like 3 voice actors, and it was only in cutscenes. Otherwise, it was primarily like a text-based adventure.
Junko, how did I hurt you?
Yeah, why?
You never called. You never called Ike after Shadow was over. Oh. Sumimasen, Junko. Watashi wa Yoko desu.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Did you ever have any interactions with any of them, like one-on-one, or was it just kind of like, it's a job, don't talk to me?
Oh no, they were very cool. There was, I mean, I know traditionally in Japan, status and hierarchy of job title and everything is probably still very rigid. But these guys were super cool. I don't know. Do you want to go into the whole sailing trip thing here?
Yeah, please. I'd love to hear that again.
So actually, at the time we were recording this, I belonged to a sailing club. I had gotten into sailboat racing when I moved to California. I grew up in St. Louis, other than the Mississippi River, fairly landlocked. But I got into sailing when I moved out to California, San Francisco in 1984. And I joined a sailing club, and I was getting certified through the American Sailing Association to charter boats of certain size. So at the time we were recording Shadow of Destiny, I was certified to charter sailboats up to 50 feet. So I asked if they would like to go sailing on San Francisco Bay, and they were like, "Oh yes, that would be awesome, awesome-ru, yes, hi, so this awesome-ru." I'm being incredibly terrible and politically incorrect right now.
That's how we like it on this channel. That's okay.
There we go. So I chartered a 34-foot sailboat, and it was about close to $300. I just footed the bill out of my Shadow of Destiny money, because I thought, if these guys ever come back to San Francisco and do another game, I'm going to have so much face and hand with them that they're going to have to call me.
Yeah, exactly.
But apparently not Junko for Shadow of Destiny 2. But I
took
all
by the way, Konami. if you never make
Right.
games again. Did you know that Konami actually doesn't really make games anymore? They've gone into pachinko. That's like their thing. They're kind of done with games now.
Oh dear, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah, me too. They have a lot of good IPs.
But I took these guys all out sailing on San Francisco Bay, and it was the summer of 2001. And so summer in San Francisco is wild and woolly out on the bay. I mean, it is blowing
Yeah.
like 25, 30 miles an hour, 30 knots with waves. And we sailed around all day long. I mean, we went past Alcatraz. We sailed out under the Golden Gate Bridge. We cruised past the San Francisco city front. It was totally awesome. I think it was like a 50-50 mix of, oh my God, this is so incredible, and oh my God, we're all going to die.
Yeah.
I think they were like equal parts thrilled and terrified. And so we leave Berkeley. We get back to Berkeley. We put the boat away. It's like getting dark. It's been a long day where everybody's tired and beat to hell. And they're in my car, which I think at the time I had a 1976 four-door Toyota Corolla, so the perfect car for my crew from Konami.
Right.
And I drive them back down to South San Francisco, which is probably an hour drive from Berkeley. And I pull up in front of the hotel, and I turn to go, okay, here we are. And every single one of them is sound asleep. They are so wiped. They're like asleep in my car. And I'm like, I wonder what the appropriate way to wake them up is without them losing face. So I like blew the horn or something, and I'm like, oh, hey, look, we're here.
You're like, I don't know if we're close enough to like touch you on the shoulder yet. So
Right.
yeah.
No, it was awesome. I think they had a great time. But it was in the middle of the recording session, so definitely the next day they were a little tired.
Yeah, I can only imagine. You go back to record the next day, they're like, I don't want to talk about it.
So they're like,
Oh, that's so cool. That's a really heartwarming story, and honestly, that's a really good professional idea too. For any of you aspiring voice talents out there, if you ever want to really leave a good impression, definitely do something charitable along those lines. Because you said it came right out
take
of your
them
own
sailing.
pocket. Take them
I don't know
sailing.
what.
Specifically sailing.
I don't know if you can do that, but
Don't say that. Don't say where I live.
oh, I'm sorry. I mean, Detroit.
Yeah, there you go. It's okay. I'll bleep it. You get Scott Keck over here doxing me.
Prank call.
Oh,
how'd you get this number?
They'll do worse than that. Do you know what swatting is?
Oh, Jesus, no.
Swatting is when you call the police and you give them this person's address and you say they have a gun, they're threatening to kill like their family, and then the police just come to your door with guns, and it's like a pretty risky thing to do because there have been times where people have been
Because
swatted.
they're going to come back because they know where you called from. When you call 911, they'd be like, we got over there, and it was like a christening party.
Not even that. It's a lot of the time because they assume like this guy's on the fucking edge. He's gonna die. He's gonna kill someone else, and so they come in like ready, thinking like you're gonna try to kill them. So it can, as you can imagine, it could become a very heated altercation.
So I could redecorate my living room with a flashbang, is what you're saying. Isn't that special?
That's one way to look at it. All right, next question. On that note, it went from swatting to this. It's going great. So did you end up seeing much of the final product? And if so, what did you think? Like, to what capacity did you really see the completed product?
I have to admit that I did not have a console. Probably 95% of the video game voices I ever did. I actually personally never played the game.
Right.
I have never seen Shadow of Destiny except for what people have posted on YouTube, like clip-wise. So that's really my only experience of the game. I never played it. I didn't see any, they never gave us any video or anything of the finished gameplay, obviously. So,
right.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because I was a video game head, but I was more into like, the shooter games and things like that. And
more normal stuff. Yeah.
Right. And then, I got married and my wife wasn't into video games. So it was kind of like, right, I guess I'm not going to buy and play all these games that I did voices for, because that would be... Sometimes you would get copies of the game.
Yeah.
Like I don't think I even got a copy of the game from Konami.
Hey, you know what? If you want, I could send it to you.
Damn you, Konami!
I could send you one, man, just to have up on your wall. Get you like a brand new crisp copy.
Unless I've got what console did it play on, or was it a computer game? PlayStation. Oh,
it was on
PlayStation. PlayStation. You know, weirdly, in my basement, as far as I know, it still works. I have a Sega Genesis.
Ooh, yeah.
With like Spider-Man and a couple other games.
Have you ever played Sonic the Hedgehog?
Yes, I have. I used to play Sonic, and I have an old Xbox. It might be a 360.
Yeah.
That's actually in the living room, but I never do anything on it because my wife gives me the hairy eyeball.
Women.
Those of you who are married understand that happy wife equals happy life.
Yep.
So, and I actually, oh man, I want to say, like 10 years ago, I uninstalled all the first-person shooter games from my computer because I realized I was like, I'm getting so pissed off because I'm getting pwned by these 12 and 13-year-old kids. And I'm like, what? Don't do it. Oh, God, I'm dead again? Fuck. Oh, you're teabagging. I'm going to kill. Oh, you. And I thought, this is not healthy for me mentally.
Yeah.
So I like Battle Cry and Battlefield.
Yeah.
I played Battlefield 1942 and 2045 and all that shit. And I was in a clan and all this stuff. And I was like, you know what? This is not really healthy for me. So as much as I love video games, I uninstalled all the video games from my computer. And now if I play stuff, it's like World of Tanks or World of Warships, where it's a little, I'm like, oh, I died. Oh, who cares?
A little more slower pace, not quite so personal when you die. That's actually why I stopped playing the Call of Duty games, which are just kind of like modern.
Call of Duty. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Did not say.
I stopped. Battlefield, Call of Duty. They've been around for a while. I'm pretty sure. I think Battlefield might be newer, but. I'm with you there, man, because whenever I would play Call of Duty, I would get to the point where like I would just be so tweaked. It didn't help that I was on like, Adderall for college and everything. I had to be for classes and because I have ADHD. So
I'm gonna come to your city.
Oh yeah. I would just fucking rage the entire time. So it got to a point where I said, this game isn't good for my heart or my head. Like it's just not good. So I stopped and I've never looked back.
Yeah. I mean, every once in a while, sure. I mean, I like shooting at stuff, but I haven't put any of those back on.
I prefer Animal Crossing. It's a game where you maintain your house and you meet your villagers and you run chores for them, and it's like a really pleasant kind of zen experience, kind of a girl game.
I like Homeowner. It's where I actually do stuff around my house in real life, and my wife thanks me.
Endlessly replayable, by the way, for those of you at home.
Right. Yeah. It's a new video game I'm working on. It's called Honeydew List, and it has no end. So, and nothing you ever do is satisfactory. So you just get to keep doing it over and over again.
That's a sequel just called a Working Adult Life. Yeah. No.
Right. Adulting v 4.0.
It's like 4 out of 10 rating for me personally. But the graphics are great.
Bill, this is where you get to pay all your bills every month. It's an awesome video game. You set up automatic bill pay in your checking account, and then the one place that doesn't take it, you have to write an actual physical paper check for, which is weird because who does that anymore? Yeah. Oh God, faxes! Oh please.
Anyway,
still use faxes at work. I mean, I work for Visa, the credit card company, and God help us. You know what? You know why they still use faxes? Banks use faxes.
Why is that?
Because they're not hackable.
That makes sense. It's kind of like why George R.R. Martin does all of his writing on like an old Mac computer, like from the 80s.
There is a Radio Shack TRS-80 in my closet, and all it needs is 4 D cells, and it's up and running.
D cells like the big batteries?
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
That's what it runs on.
I don't know anything that uses D cells anymore.
Because I don't have the power supply for it anymore, so D cells.
That was my next question, is how are you using a battery-operated computer, like a disposable battery-operated computer?
It's got non-volatile memory. I haven't turned the thing on in like 8 years, so I'm just assuming it works. There's also a Commodore 64 in my basement somewhere.
You can't go wrong with the classics, man. I'm not gonna fault you for that one.
Hey, with the GEOS operating system that made it look like a Mac, motherfucker.
I just love when
That's all I'll say.
I just love when you swear, because it sounds like Ike had a few too many to drink, and it's just like someone's got to stop Ike.
I'm Ike. How about a rim job? You can leave that in or cut it out. I don't care.
Ooh, I'll leave it. I'll leave it, motherfucker. Anyway, let's move on. This is devolving rapidly.
That's the tequila talking.
That's actually you're getting your original like feet back in terms of being able to portray Ike. Like you're starting to hone back in.
That's great. I'm not sure about that, but okay. Well, I'll be seeing you.
Yeah, I'll be seeing you. That was a big one.
We'll do that to close. I'll be seeing you.
I really do love. I told my friend. I've been telling all my friends like there's just a bit. It's like a joke I'm planning on doing in my video where, yeah, like you can just stop by. Like there's that Margaret. I think her name's Julie Parker or something like that.
Maybe. Who was Margaret? Gene Hartman.
That was it. Gene.
I've got the cast list in front of me here.
Gene Hartman. Yeah.
Julie was Dana.
That was it. And Gene Hartman, she had like just this sweet little voice, and you'll walk up to her house because within the context of the story, you're supposed to go here and bam, 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 go here, and it's like very objective based. And if you're not supposed to go there, they'll be like, "Can I fucking help you? Like what? What do you want?" And they'll just kind of look at you, and you'll go, "Oh, I'm sorry, thank you," and you'll just leave. And then you can come in again, and Margaret will go, "Look, I'm sorry, but my mother is sick upstairs, and and you just go, "Oh, I'm sorry. I'll talk to you later," or something to that effect.
Oh, hi, I'm Ike. I'm a giant pussy. See you later.
That's essentially what happens, because he just comes in, he's like, "Mr. Eckert," and Bruce Robertson is just like, "Yes, Ike, what do you need?" And he's just like, "Oh, nothing. See you later."
Okay, I'll be seeing you.
Yeah, I'll be seeing you.
I'll be seeing you. I said that like 400 times.
I was gonna say, you probably had to say the line, "I'll be seeing you," so goddamn many times.
Okay, I'll be seeing you.
It's his fucking catchphrase or something.
Oh my god.
Oh, that's great. All right, my next question is, was Shadow of Destiny your first big voiceover job?
I guess it was it was probably the one where I had the most studio time and I made the most money, and it was definitely, out of all the games I did, probably the only one where I was the, quote unquote main character. Because I had done a bunch of other stuff. I mean, like I did Destruction Derby 64, and I was the track announcer. So I was really kind of the only voice in that game. And, that was really fun because I got, it was a monster truck racing game on the Nintendo 64. And I got to say stuff like, "Oh, that's going to leave a mark." And, "Oh, he crushed it."
Yeah.
So, stuff like that. So that was, in one way, that was way more fun than being Ike.
Yeah.
But it was a much shorter recording session, and I didn't make as much money. So, you can say like, well, there was Ike, and then there was this thing that was really fun to do, but Ike was a better payday.
Yeah, exactly. So you really got to weigh it against all the other factors.
Yeah, so I think Ike was kind of like both yay and sadly the pinnacle of my video game voiceover career.
Yeah.
Because actually, it was interesting. So we did, Shadow of Destiny was recorded at a place in Menlo Park, California called Digital Annex. And Digital Annex did a lot of video game voices because it was down near Electronic Arts and Silicon Valley, where a lot of the other video game companies that had American offices had offices. And I got to know this woman, oh God, whose last name I cannot remember, but her first name was Janice. And she was kind of their casting director and talent coordinator. I think it was probably after, although Mitsurugi in Soul Calibur 2 was probably up there with Shadow of Destiny as far as the prominence of the character that I did.
Yeah.
It was a much shorter recording. It was like only a day or two of recording.
Right.
So after I did Soul Calibur 2, Janice just started calling me in for stuff, and I didn't have to audition, which was great. I mean, it wasn't all big stuff. It was, a lot of it was minor side characters or whatever. But then Janice got married and moved to Sacramento, damn her, and got out of the voiceover business. And so I lost my in with Digital Annex.
Yeah.
And about the same time, I think, there was like sort of the .com bomb hit, and there was a bit of a recession, and the video game business contracted. And sort of around the same time, video game companies kind of started moving toward that let's hire celebrity model. Yeah, so as far as having stories to tell and remembering fondly and a great payday, I think Ike and Shadow of Destiny is probably it for me.
Yeah, I would honestly consider like Ike and Mitsurugi to be like kind of the big ones, especially.
Yeah.
And I mean, hey, that's still more than any given person will be able to say they voiced in their lifetime. You know what I mean? So like,
Hey Chase, are you coming on to me?
Scott, let's keep this off record, okay? If we're gonna we're gonna flirt, let's do it in the privacy.
You're in Texas, I'm in California. This is not gonna work. I mean, you know.
Be a real thune, okay? You just gotta do your Ike voice for me. We'll just hit it off like real good, real nice-like, okay?
Okay, well, I'll be seeing you below my equator.
Did you bring the condoms? Let's do it.
What are those?
What are
Oh, I'm Ike. I like to bareback.
Jesus Christ. Okay, let's move on. This is the best.
Don't open the door because I'll just run right through it, waving my arms.
This is the best conversation I've had in the last decade. I swear to God. All right. Yeah. So, did you originally record as Mitsurugi, and then later she's like, "Hey, come voice Ike"?
I want to say I think Mitsurugi was before Ike. I'm gonna 2001. So let's look up Soul Calibur 2. There's like Soul Calibur 19.
They're up to 6 now. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I mean they didn't call me for any of the other ones, so I couldn't have been that fucking good, right?
It's okay. Fighting games have
Soul
very
Calibur
minimal
4,
voice acting.
that's not me. Soul
Calibur 2 is the one you were in.
2, there it is. Oh yeah. So actually, Shadow of Destiny was 2001. Soul Calibur 2 was 2003.
Oh,
so
okay. All the way around.
Shadow of Destiny was pre Soul Calibur 2. So maybe when I landed the big Shadow of Destiny gig, that maybe that was the when she just started calling me for stuff.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I had to do much of an audition for Mitsurugi.
Yeah. That's more or less what I figured.
J.S. Gilbert, oddly enough, in Soul Calibur 2.
Yeah. These days, whenever I get an audition, it's just I work with Sound Cadence here in Addison. I'm not 100% sure, but they're.
I'm just writing that down so I can take all your work.
Stop by. Hi, I'm Ike. Hire me. Fuck.
Hi, I'm Ike. I'll be seeing you.
You just come in and say that, and they're like, "That was fucking weird. What was up with that?" Let's not cast that guy.
That guy was a little creepy. Yeah. I'm not sure.
So, which would you
little
say?
hashtag there?
You're gonna get called on social media, Buster. What would you say is your favorite performance? I guess I kind of asked you this to some capacity earlier. What was your favorite performance that you've been in that was either the most creative, fulfilling, or just the most enjoyable? Because I know you also did that. What was it called? That like the zombie one. The name is escaping me right now. Less Than Human.
Oh, Less Than Human. Yeah. I was hoping in Less Than Human they would cast me as one of the zombies, but they cast me as the reporter.
Yeah.
So that was fine. That wasn't super duper up there. I have to say, one of the favorite things I did was I sent you the files for it, and unfortunately we can't post them for other people to see.
Sure.
One of my favorite things was Blood Runner. I told you about that before we started recording,
right.
But it was way back in the 90s when online sort of flash movie and cartoon stuff was just first really taking off. And I did a bunch of work for this local San Francisco company that ended up folding when the dot bomb happened. We did about 3 or 4 episodes of this guy who was, he was a white cell or something inside the body, but he was kind of a noir gumshoe private eye.
Sure.
And the series was called Blood Runner, and it all took place inside the human body. And that was actually one of my favorite things to voice, because it was like, in between the blood and the bone. I saw her. She was standing there. I knew it wasn't going to happen, but so you could kind of really get your teeth into it. And then Osmosis Jones came out, and we were like, "Oh my God, we have been totally ripped off."
Fuck.
But couldn't prove it, and nobody had any money to go suing Chris Rock or whoever the fuck it was.
Yeah, it was Chris Rock.
Chris Rock. But I think also, just some of the. I was the track announcer for Destruction Derby 64. I think I mentioned that before. That was just really fun.
Yeah.
Mitsurugi was fun because actually, and again, because I never owned a copy of Soul Calibur 2, I don't know if they actually made it into the game, but they let me improvise a bunch of Mitsurugi lines that were supposed to be Easter eggs if you beat the game on the highest setting.
Yeah.
And it was stuff like, "Oh, I'm Mitsurugi. I like white cotton panties," and just weird. Seriously, that was one of the lines. Just weird shit like that. They let me improvise a whole bunch of stuff that was supposed to be Easter eggs, and I don't know if it ever made it into the game. But the guys in the recording session were laughing their ass off, so that was fun.
If they did make it into the game, I'm sure someone data mined a lot of those, and if they exist, I will play them right now in the podcast for everyone to hear, just so they know you're live.
Please find them, because I would love to know if they ever actually made it into the game.
I'm sure they're somewhere on the disc. I'm positive. Oh yeah, you were telling me through when we were messaging originally back and forth. You told me that you kind of tried to tell the directors, like, maybe we should make this a little more Western. Maybe I shouldn't just be doing like an impression of a Japanese character.
Oh, in Mitsurugi? Yeah. So the weird thing is that usually when you would go to audition for doing these video game voices, the game would pretty much usually always have been released in Japan. That wasn't the case with Shadow of Destiny, but Soul Calibur 2 and some of these other games that I did voices for, I know, like Zone of the Enders and some other stuff.
Yeah, you did Slash, I believe.
Yes, and so those games had already been out in Japan when they decided to do the Western port or version of them. And it was basically like dubbing, I think, because they weren't redoing the gameplay that much. Yeah. Obviously, they would have to change any graphics with writing or something in it from kanji or hiragana or katakana to English. But a lot of the time, they would either have the game running on a console or they'd have a videotape. VHS kids, look it up. And you'd go in the back room and the game would be running a cutscene or something, or you'd have the videotape and you'd have like 10, 15, 20 minutes to look at it before it was your turn to go audition. Mm-hmm. And they would say, do it just like that, only in English. And I feel like, being kind of a lefty these days, that would be really frowned on. Like, I felt like, now I feel like Mitsurugi is really sort of, I don't know if it's cultural appropriation or, racist or whatever, because they wanted me to do like this full-on heavy fake Westerner doing a bad Japanese accent type thing. And I was like, hey, hello, Mitsurugi, I will kill you now. I mean, and
you still got it.
It's like, I was happy to do it and get paid for it in 2003, but 16 years later, I'm like, that didn't age so well, did it? Yeah. So
I was telling you through email. I think you got a pass because you were in a room full of Japanese people saying, because you said they would just point to the footage in the game and say, okay, do that, but in English. And
yes, exactly.
You were like, they would say, tone it down a little bit, and they were like, no, do that, but in English.
Right, because it would be the Japanese version of the game, and as most of your people who listen are probably aware, for animation and video games, you really overact. Oh yeah. Versus what you would do if you were on camera, right? Yeah. So the Japanese voice actors were like, that's
pretty good.
Like. And they'd just be like, okay, do it just like that, but in English. And I'd be like, how? Okay. So, yeah, I mean, so it had its own interesting little challenges.
Yeah. You really got that. You really nailed the Horia. Like, that's such a... He's gonna get demonetized now for racism, so we gotta move on.
I don't know. It's probably. It's improv. I do gibberish. I can do gibberish in any language you'd care to name.
That's true. No, that is so interesting though, because that really was like a different time. I feel like back in the day it was just so much more kind of laid back. Like, I'm sure, people had issue with that sort of thing, but they were like, whatever, I'm not gonna complain. But now it's like trendy to be really outspoken about that stuff, so that's why you're hearing about much more.
I mean, in 2003, I don't think anybody was marching in the streets of Tokyo saying racist voice actors of America go home. But I mean, these days I can certainly see people pointing to some of, a lot of these games and going like, well, that's a little questionable.
I just imagine a bunch of protesters in the street saying, Scott Keck, go to heck. We don't want you anymore.
What rhymes with Mitsurugi? Mitsurugi, Haxalugi. I don't know.
That was actually pretty good for being so quick on the draw. I tip my hat to you, sir. Oh my god, my cheeks hurt from smiling so goddamn much. This has been great. What, if any, is your advice to anyone who might be trying to get into voiceover right now?
Well, I'll be 100% honest and say I haven't really tried to do any sort of commercial or video game voiceover in a lot of years because I was always non-union. Video games were completely non-union at the time. It was a buyout. It was like either an hourly rate or, like I said, when we did it, I was getting, since I was the main character, I think I got like $500 a day for an 8-hour day in the studio. Right. And I think I got 8 days worth of work, which at the time I did this, I had probably been working in my day job for 10 years. Mm-hmm. So I had to take like 8 days of vacation from my day job.
Yeah.
Dude, this was a ton of money for me in 2001, right, living in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing. If you have a real niche sound or niche, I don't want to pronounce it. If you have a real niche, develop that niche and really try to work it and network with people. But if you think you're just going to go into the generic voiceover business right now, unless you're in some sort of small market somewhere that has an active local radio and TV market, and the people who actually work at those stations are not hogging all the spots, in that case, maybe there's a small career there. Mm-hmm. On a national scale, the business has changed so much. I have 2, 3, 4 friends who live in San Francisco, California, and for many years were top tier voice guys in San Francisco, working for McDonald's and other big national retail and being like the booth announcer, which is the guy who does all the VOs for coming up next or tune in tonight, blah, 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 on the local stations for like UC station KGO. And they have nice homes in Oakland Hills or in Sausalito, but now neither one of those guys really has a career anymore, and they're both retired. Yeah. Because most of the VO gigs for any kind of big national stuff are going to celebrities. And it's a shame because a celebrity is not always the best voice for a job. Yeah. But people go, oh, hey, I recognize that voice. That's so-and-so. Yeah. And this is actually what I've been doing. I would say look at it as a fun and creative way to express your creativity. Go to community colleges, local colleges, any place around you where they teach animation or filmmaking, and put up flyers, join Facebook pages, or whatever electronic social media kind of things that are, hey, we're a bunch of people who do animation, or we're a bunch of people who produce live shows, or something like that. Look for people who might be doing puppet shows or animated web series, and say, hey, I would like to do voice stuff for this XYZ thing you're doing. And, be ready to not make any money for a while.
It really is a passion project more than anything.
Yeah. I look at it these days as like, I've had the same day job for 28 years. So I've never really relied on voiceover the bills, thank God, because I'd be living in my car. Yeah. But people call me up, I'm like, okay, is it an interesting project? If it's people I know and like, then it's an automatic yes. Or I'll talk to the people on the phone, or I'll meet them have a beer. And I'm like, you know what? It seems like an interesting project. You seem like nice people. I don't really give a shit if there's no money. It's a creative thing to do. Let's have some fun. I mean, that's what I would say to people right now is, you could go out and pay somebody $1,000, $1,200, $1,500, $2,000 to produce your quote unquote demo reel of you recording a bunch of crap that you never really did for anybody in real life. That they pulled out of a 3-ring binder that they got from some voiceover class.
True. That's so true.
And you can do that. And if you've got the money and the time and you want to be serious about it, find somebody who is honest with you and says, look, I can't tell you that if you spend $1,500 with me to do a demo reel that you'll ever get a nickel's worth of work in your life out of it.
Yeah.
But I will do the best possible job to represent what you would like to do on this 3-minute reel or whatever it is. Because frankly, when demo reels used to be on either videotape, if it was for like voiceovers for commercials, or on audio tape, I knew people who worked at casting offices, and they would say they'd see a pile of demo tapes. You know, the demo tape had been played like 30 seconds in, and that was it.
Yeah.
So they can tell in the first 30 seconds if they're going to keep listening. So yeah, if you have a passion for it and you're not using it to pay the rent, keep doing it.
Yeah, and have realistic expectations.
It's like acting. It's like improv. I moved to San Francisco 35 years ago in 1984 to study improvisational theater. I barely ever made a nickel at it, but I've done it for 35 years, and I've loved every minute of it. And I've done improv shows that sold out 1,200-seat theaters.
Jeez.
And, I actually got paid for those shows, but, it was never about making a living. It was about, I discovered this talent that I didn't know I had, and it just sort of like drove me to do this thing, and I was fairly good at it, and I had a good time doing it, and other people seemed to have a good time doing it with me, and so we had this creative collaboration. And I would say to anybody listening to this podcast is like, yeah, if you have the creative juice and you have the wherewithal to do it, go out and do it. Don't let the money stop you. But, by the same token, I don't think anybody was ever a better artist because they had to sleep in their car, frankly.
Yeah.
No, I don't think suffering and art go hand in hand.
It can help. It can be a little bit of a motivator, but I definitely agree with you in the sense of...
Unless you're a dominatrix, then suffering and art.
But no,
who's your dad?
I definitely agree with you in the sense of, like,
Okay, I'll be seeing you with a rubber ball in your mouth. Should I get the flail now?
But yeah, I think like be realistic is probably definitely a good summary of what you just said.
Be realistic.
Yeah.
Or if you live somewhere where there's the opportunity for you to be a medium-sized fish in a really small pond, that's awesome.
Yeah.
If you move to LA, just because I've had a ton of friends who moved to LA and New York that I knew from improv who moved to those places to be actors, they were like, oh, there's so many more jobs in LA than there are in San Francisco, which is true. So
much
there's
more competition too.
Yeah, there's 1,000 more jobs in LA, but there's 10,000 more people in line for every one of those jobs.
Yeah.
And a lot of those people have spent every penny they had on teeth whitening and teeth straightening and Botox and liposuction and personal trainers and and like it or not, the whole thing back in the 80s and 90s were like, we're casting real people in commercials and TV.
Yeah.
Bullshit. They're still casting unrealistic, idealized, advertising says you should look this way people in everything anyway. So except maybe This Is Us.
Yeah.
So be realistic. Just be realistic, because it's and develop a thick skin, because you're gonna have a lot of people say no before the first person says yes.
Oh yeah.
And if you're lucky enough to get one or two people to say yes, that's great. But it doesn't mean that the next 50 people aren't gonna say no, because what I found is casting directors and directors seldom really know what they're looking for.
Yeah.
And what they're hoping is that someone at the audition is going to come in and they're going to do this audition, and the casting director or the director or the writer, whoever's there in the session, is going to go, that's what I meant.
They're going to have that it factor.
Right, because I couldn't pull my head on my ass before the casting session to be specific enough to what I was looking for, but that guy right there, he did exactly what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So that's like 8 out of 10 casting sessions you'll ever go to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you, because I have a lot of friends who
blah blah blah, ramble, incoherent. Maybe I need more tequila. I don't know.
That's the point of an interview, Scott. You're doing great.
Right.
Don't doubt yourself. You got this.
It's like Big Brother. You're gonna edit all this to make me the asshole.
Yeah. I'm gonna make you say some racist shit. You're gonna be in trouble after this,
nice.
Man. You're gonna regret.
Nice.
You're gonna regret ever saying yes to this.
Yo.
All right, let's stop there. Anyway, very last question, and it's a big one because it means a lot to me.
So you're saying big ones mean a lot to you, Chase? Is that it's always about size with you guys on the podcast, or?
I have always just move along. I've always viewed you in Shadow of Destiny, Ike, as this being sort of this very warm, chummy, just sort of fatherly figure. And so I wanted to ask you, will you adopt me as your son?
Well, okay, Chase. I'd love to. Let's get going.
Okay, bam, cut. We're good. That was fucking amazing. I'm gonna stop recording now.